morning to everybody.
Morning.
I appreciate you coming into our session, and I want to introduce myself. I'm Tony Limoges. I'm one of the directors of secondary education. I'm director primarily that oversees both the Title I's and alternative schools and a couple other initiatives as I facilitate the equity steering committee, as well as do a lot of the trainings at the secondary level around restorative practices. Today is going to be a gift. And I promise you, and we're hot now. We got that first session out of the belt, and we met about 5 minutes before the first session. And so here's what I'm going to promise you out of today's session. You are going to be the student, and you're going to get to gain an incredible amount of knowledge from your teachers who are up here in front. And I promise you it is going to be an enjoyable experience, and they are an incredibly articulate, intelligent, beautiful group of students that you're going to walk out of here and go, oh my gosh, we are producing amazing people in this district. I'll give them a second to introduce themselves, but we're also blessed because we have what I would consider, and the goal of today is about student voice and the power of student voice. And instead of wondering what their experiences are like, we get to hear about it. And we have what I would deem as an expert on student voice here, who is Charles Cole. He is the CEO, founder, CBO, bus driver of Energy Converters, which is a group that specializes working with schools and teachers and administrators around student voice. And so I'm delighted to have him here, and you're going to watch a pro versus a guy that's learning to facilitate this kind of group. So Charles, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself?
I appreciate that. You got to undersell it, brother. Nowadays, you said lower your expectations, people. Let's get that. And before we do start, though, I see some folks stand up. There's a full row up here. How many? We got teachers in here. Y'all be getting mad when students don't sit up front. Get up front. Show these kids, like that you want to hear them. We got a whole row right there. My name is Charles Cole. I started an organization called Energy Converters, and like you said, we work on helping students lift their voice to change policy, just so they can be heard. A bunch of different things. The way I got to that, I didn't get this last time. Started my career as a social worker. Working with families and families with children with special needs. Then ran a nonprofit working to get young people in and through college. Had a 95% success rate, sent over 500 people of color to and through school. Left there, became a teacher trainer and supporter. Supported and brought in teachers locally in the Oakland, and then supported black teachers nationally, people of color. And then worked under the superintendent of OUSD, doing his community engagement and communications work. And now in the midst of finishing up my doctorate in educational leadership, because he wanted to make sure that I mentioned that this time. So I am really, really happy. Why is nobody in the front? I don't understand. I'm just saying it goes around. I'm just saying, when you got students that they don't want to listen to, thank you. You brave people. I wasn't going to stop. So I just wasn't. You got to be persistent. But thank you all for being here. And like you said, man, these young people have some amazing stories. And I don't think there's any more else I need to say. You can go ahead and you can do your thing, good brother.
Great. So we're going to do some introductions, and I'll talk to you a little bit about the structure. Go ahead, Samantha.
My name is Samantha Cooper, senior at Valley High School, rally director, president of Black Student Union, avid scholar, 17, about to be 18.
Jordan Murphy, senior at Calvine High School, 5th year, and I just go to school.
Zachary Larrier, Monterey Trail High School. I play football, basketball, and track, and currently I got a 3.98 GPA.
Amber Strotter, senior at Florin High School. I'm an AP student. I play varsity softball, and I would like to major in literature to become a photographic journalist.
My name is Darian Wilborn Taylor. I'm from Rio Casadera High School, and I'm 18. And I want to become a music artist when I get older.
So structure. I'm going to ask some questions to one a panel member, and they'll give their response, and then Mr. Cole will open up and add some knowledge to that, and maybe ask some follow-up questions and give some other folks an opportunity to chime in if they would like on the follow-up. The main goal for everybody in the room that's not us, we only have 7 MCs and 1 mic, so we're going to move it across. But really, your goal is to be the listener. We're going to try to build in 10 to 15 minutes at the end for you to ask questions across this that may have perked up as you go across the way. So you can see, it's funny to watch the panel now when we're all here. I was here the first time. We were all like this, a little bit nervous, and now I think we're going to be right into the swing of it. So I've evolved some of our questions a little bit, Samantha. So I'm going to... as an African American student, how have you share with the folks how you've navigated school, and then maybe add on to that, how do you think your navigation may have been different than mine?
I kind of forgot what I said for the first session, but I've navigated through school by, I think I said starting to do things for myself instead of others, because being African American, my family and, my peers always told me that I need to graduate college and, graduate high school, and I never was doing it for myself. So, like, progressing through my school, I started going to school for myself and actually learning and doing what I like. And what was the second part?
How do you think how you navigated would have been different than I had to navigate as a white male?
I feel, well, there's a lot of stereotypes about white people, but like, I feel like they true. Like, I feel like y'all be getting that silver spoon in your mouth. And for me, I'm African American, I'm dark skinned, and I'm a girl. And like, it's like 3 negatives. And like, I feel like you had 0 negatives. But even though that might not be the truth, but I feel like it was more of a rough path, than what you had. You know how like glaciers are in the water and it's like a big old rough part at the bottom, but when you see it above the water, it's all nice and pretty. Yeah, I feel like yours is really pretty underneath and mine is just raggedy.
And so thank you for answering that. And again, I'm going to just talk it directly to the panel. Don't worry about these people out here. You don't even need to look out there. You can look at one of us if you want to, and let's just have that conversation. Don't feel pressed to say what you said last time. Just answer as how it comes to you. But I think that was a good answer. But I do want to lift up what you said around being black, a girl, and I think you said dark skin, and then as negative. And I think that that's a perception that's kind of been beat into us. I don't have much to necessarily add to it. I just wanted to acknowledge that's a mindset that we kind of deal with. As we're talking about navigation, quickly I'll just reflect on with mine. My school, I don't think that they had high expectations for us at all. And it wasn't until I made that decision, like, look, my parents was on drugs, in and out of jail, all this stuff. If school is gonna end up being my hustle, which is what it ended up doing, I gotta go out and get it. So the way I had to navigate is I had to go out and find a mentor and find people, because I was the first person in my family to go to college. None of my friends' parents went to college or things like that. So it was just a foreign land, and I had to kind of navigate that by myself. I didn't feel like I had adults in the building that were actually really helping me do that if it wasn't about basketball. Basketball, I had help, but just in general. Before we move on to the next person, did anybody else have do you feel like you got the appropriate help for you to navigate through your current school right now? Just quickly, I just want to hear how a few of you, maybe 1 or 2 of you think about that.
Right now?
Yeah, right now.
Well, right now, I moved to Rio Casadera High School, and when I first got there, I was really nervous. I was really nervous because it was like a new place, and I don't like moving to new places. But it's like a homeroom. It's called Contract. My teacher Gordon Gordon Wheat. He helped me through a lot. There was a lot of tough times I needed help, and he actually really like made me more comfortable talking to like teachers and everything. There's times I needed help. There's times I didn't know like how to handle something, and he talked me through it. He spoke to my mom a couple times, and it was like I can come to him anytime, no matter what it was, personal, non-personal. What I did over the summer, what I did yesterday, today, and he just like it's like cool. It's like my surrogate dad. Like he's been there for me a lot, and he still is. And
So you got that help. You got to
Yeah.
have somebody to help you navigate. Cool.
yeah.
Any other person before we go to the next question?
For my school, I go to Calvine High School, and I think they give me a lot of things to look at to help me navigate to where I need to be or where I would want to be, and they help me. They're there for me for when I actually need them, because I'm really the type to like if I'm not getting no help or nothing, it's just whatever. I'm just not gonna go to school. I'm just not gonna waste time with it, unless I know that somebody's actually there for me. And all my teachers that I have now, they're all there for me. They all want me to succeed. They all want to see me, graduate high school. So I feel like I have the right teachers and peers to help me get to where I need to be.
So let's go to a second question. So kind of on that, Jordan, you've got the mic. So, and others, you can chime in on this, is let's talk about a specific experience where an adult, and let's try to focus it on school, got your back and helped you navigate your experience.
My specific adult would be Mary Beth, and she is my economic and government teacher, and she not only helps me with that class, but she helps guide me through other classes. Like I show up to school before any of the other teachers are there, and my teacher Mary Beth, she's there at like 6 in the morning, and I get there at 7:30, and I've always missed a lot of days of schools because due to me having diabetes and me being out and stuff and all that. And she's always, and whenever I need help with a certain class, she takes her time and drops everything she's doing and helps me and goes through each and every step with me, so I'll understand on how to do whatever I need to do for school to help me graduate and stuff.
My individual person or teacher at my school would probably be my head football coach, Coach Ewing. He teaches phys ed, but he never teaches. In my physical education class, but I have it all terms. But I would say he helped me navigate because he really taught us to like how to grow up, how to be mature about school, and I think that really helped me in 9th grade. Like he always tells us at the beginning of every single term, all year, ever since my freshman year, he always tells us, go up to all your teachers, introduce yourself, look them in their eyes when you introduce them, sit in the front of the classroom unless you have, unless they have a seating chart, and always don't sit next to any of your friends that you have. Don't sit next to any of them because it's most likely just gonna hold you back from passing the class or doing what you want to do in the class. And yeah, that's the person I'd say helped me navigate through high school.
I'm blessed to say I have like 4 or 5 teachers at my school who are like that. Like Mr. Smith, who's here. He's one of those teachers. He's helped me so much in the past 2 years, like be determined and keep my head in the game. And there's Mr. Jensen, Mr. Simmons, Miss Hagen. Miss Hagen is like my mom, my second mom. She's always on top of me. I'm always with her. And like, I appreciate teachers who will actually have your back. And it's not just like, it's not an obligation. It doesn't feel like they're obligated to be there. They're just there.
Charles, I'm going to ask you a follow-up on that. And this became a pattern of the last. So Charles has done this hundreds of times with different. So when we're talking about people getting people's back. In your experience, are there like pattern statements or things that are just like, this is what getting my back looks like?
Yeah,
Charles,
I
I'm
think
gonna ask
so.
you.
And I think what we've seen is that different adults play different roles with kids at any given time. And so, you know, there might be somebody that is just there as just the encouragement. And it may come up again in this panel, but in the first panel, a student talked about just all the negative things they were hearing from adults over and over again. And then one adult told that young person they could do something, and they like excelled at it. And then there's other folks like my basketball coach that was just a really strict and a really hard man, but he really prepared us for life and what life meant. Like as like a young black man, he was able in a school that was mixed with people. Like he was the one that prepared me early on that you're gonna get pulled over, that this thing is gonna happen to you. As a man and growing up here in Oakland, you need to understand X, Y, and Z. And they worked, when it was successful, it was because adults were working together to tackle different things with people because young folks are dynamic, right? And so I think having your back looks different. I think the one place where it's uniform, though, is being excellent at what you do in your profession. It's not enough just to be a black teacher. It's not enough just to be a woman teacher. You also have to be good at your craft. You also have to know your stuff, because I've also had classrooms that I've supported, that I've walked in, and that I was a student in, where I felt like that person was learning the material the same as I was. And I think young people can tell when you're not prepared for them, and they might not be able to articulate that in the moment. But if I feel like you didn't prepare for me, it's sending me the message that I don't really matter that much to you. So, you know, having my back in that instance meant being really good at your job and like growing in that.
So I'm going to pull just a teeny bit out of that. One of my favorite sayings is people don't experience your intentions, they experience your actions. So what we heard up here is there's different styles, but the actions were consistent about levels of support for people as they go through experience. Now we're going to go on the other end of the spectrum, Zach. We're going to let's talk about some negative experiences. And you felt antagonized, you didn't feel supported. How did it make you feel? How did you react? Would you have done things differently? And let's not start this one with, Mr. Limoges, my science teacher, was a tool. Let's talk about the experience more so than the who the individual was.
Let me think. I haven't really had that many like antagonizing experiences really. High school's been pretty good for me though. But I'd probably say the worst thing is probably freshman year. I was doing something wrong in a class, and I kept asking my teacher to explain it to me. Like I was getting a bad grade on it. This is actually the reason why I have 3.9 right now instead of a 4.0. But like she wasn't really explaining what I was doing wrong. It was in a reading class, academic literacy. Every freshman has to take it. And you're supposed to write these metacognitive responses, right? But I'm like one of the only people in the class that actually were reading the book. You're supposed to read and then write the response. Nobody else reads. They just write the response just off of whatever, just so they can get the good grade. And they were getting better grades than I was. And I was just confused, and I kept asking her how to fix it. And none of her explanations were making sense. And eventually she just, like, I don't know, she just kind of gave up and didn't really explain it. So I ended up getting an 88 or something, or 89 B. And I don't know, that's probably my most antagonist. That's probably the thing that's the most negative thing, really. Other than that, though, it's been pretty good.
Anybody else want to add I think this is powerful.
The most negative thing that happened to you?
We'll just talk about a negative experience. How it made you feel.
A negative experience. I've got multiple negative experiences. My most negative experience is when I can say when I first got diabetes. It's horrible. All I did was I was passing out everywhere. throwing up everywhere, and I was out of town with my mom because she used to have a shop down in the Fresno area. So we went out there with her because I was sick and didn't know why. And I was staying with my uncle, and I was just passing out everywhere. So I went into the room she was sleeping in, and she told me we gonna go to the hospital and all that. And when I had went to the hospital, I had fainted. And they hooked me up to IVs and told me that I was a type 1 diabetic. So all we was doing is just figuring out like where I'm gonna go, because we had just moved out here and they want us to fly to LA and fly to Fresno and all that. And then they told us that we could fly to Sacramento. And that with that, it was just like it was me. It wasn't really, it didn't take a real big toll on me. It's just I seen how it affected my mom, because she don't know what to do, and I'm only like 13 at the time, so I'm just sitting there just like, well, it's whatever. I just can't eat candy or whatever. And and no, seriously, like I was just like, I'm just not gonna eat candy. I'm gonna be good. But seeing it on my mom's face, it was just like I wish we would have attacked my sickness a little bit before that, because I was sick prior to that. They told me they had ran tests for me being sick 6 months before that, and it got real bad to a point to where I started having seizures on the plane and stuff. So it was just everything was just going down at once, and I always want to be the person to be able to make everybody happy. That's just me. I want to keep a smile on everybody's face, even if I don't know you. And that the fact that I'm trying to be strong for my mom, but it's hard on my mom because this she feel like she got to deal with it too. It's just like what can I really do about it?
Jordan, and I think you talked about it a little bit last time, but how did that impact you in school?
I mean, it was just in school. It was just like, dang, he got diabetes, so it's just like, don't mess with him. And then I started getting made fun of, which evolved me into changing myself into being more aggressive. Like I got real bad anger issues off of it, and being depressed a lot by having diabetes, because I couldn't really come to my mom with all my problems, because of me being her son. Is just like, it just made her feel like that's just being feminine, coming to your mom about stuff, being hurt and stuff, and it's like she made me feel like I shouldn't come to her at all, just keep it all bottled inside, and it changed me a lot. Like, it made me think different about everybody. It made me not want to talk to nobody. I kept to myself. Even if I was hurt, I was just to myself. Didn't want to bring it in the air with nobody.
Charles, you kind of shared a little bit about gender roles in the African American community, and I thought that was some good stuff. Do you mind kind of elaborating on some of the things that Jordan and Samantha said in the last session?
Right. Yeah. So we just there was some threads that kind of came up, and we had this conversation with the crowd just around, like, in our community sometimes we not always taught how to deal with emotions in an appropriate way. You talk about things like toxic masculinity, or what the definition of how a girl should act or be treated, and also put the other layer, depending on where your neighborhood is, and just socially, some of those things can be detrimental. Like, if you live in the South Side of Chicago, it can be really rough on you if you are like an emotional boy. And so, as an educator, we just talked about what you could do, and like just having an understanding of that. But also, if you build the appropriate relationships, part of that job then becomes how do I help these young people deal with issues outside of my classroom that they might be bringing inside of it. And so it was just something that we wanted people to think about, because we heard a bunch of examples from young folks, where they, like, a young person just said, like, I have a debilitating disease, that I'm learning how to deal with, and I don't have anybody to talk to about it. And now I'm in your class, and kids making fun of me. So now I'm throwing hands on people. So, am I just teaching algebra in that class now? How am I having conversations with this young man? So it was just something that we wanted people to be thinking about. And it's something that probably could have been, that he could have probably used in a time that a lot of us as adults have not even had to deal with something like that. So imagine being 13 years old in a new space with new people around you, being told you can't talk about it, and now I got you in my face too, right? So that was something that we had highlighted.
Amber, we're coming to you now. And Darian, you shared some things last time as well, so I'd love to hear your story previously, as we're talking about bias and discrimination. So everybody up here, you believe it or not, is a successful student. So how has other individuals' bias or discrimination been an obstacle or been part of your journey towards success? What experiences have you had around where it was a bias or you felt a victim of discrimination?
I shared last time about one of my female teachers. She was at Florin a couple years ago, and she was a new teacher. And I went to introduce myself to her because I generally talk more to the teachers than to other students. And I went to introduce myself to her, and I went to shake her hand, and she flinched at me. And she was like afraid of me. And I didn't understand why, because I had just met her, and it like gave me this uneasy feeling. And it wasn't the first time that I'd experienced something like that. And it just made me like doubt, I guess, because I didn't pass her class. I didn't really talk to her that much that whole year I had her, because it was difficult, because I automatically assumed that she was afraid of me. So I didn't think I could approach her for help because she'd be intimidated. And things like that is something that I struggle with, because I'm the type of person who does like to please everybody. I always take on everybody's expectations and like pile it on my list of things to do. Like, oh, they want me to do this. Okay, let me do that too. And it's made me more of a person who is depended on more than I think I can depend on other people. And I had a conversation with one of my teachers, and he said that any doubt or anything that I hold against myself is only what other people say to me. He said, because in believing in yourself, you're setting your own goals, and you don't have to live for anybody else, because no one is going to live your life for you. So I automatically reset my path. I reset everything that I was thinking about and like focused on what I was trying to do. I'm trying to get to the University of Chicago. I'm trying to get my degree in literature, and I'm trying to travel around the world and take pictures, and that's what I want to do. So
Well, a time when that I felt like it was biased, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, a time where I felt like that involving my education, how I was judged, or like my skin color, was like when I moved to Cheyenne, Wyoming. It was like a new place for me. Like I went from living in Sacramento, California, where it was diverse, to just like one color, and people that were my skin tone act like, as people call it, like a stereotype, like they were whitewashed, like they were acting white. So it was like I was kind of still like I wasn't used to one type. I was used to diversity. So when I got there, I was bullied a lot because of my color, and I was like really quiet. So I was scared to talk out, and I was bullied. And like I said last time, there was they told my mom and my family, because I had cousins going there and my sister. They told us that the first time somebody is racist to a kid, they'll get suspended. Well, a couple times there was a lot of kids being racist to me and saying like comments and about my skin tone and my family, and I've came to the principal and I've told them about it, and then they just told my mom that it's like they dealt with it. It's all right. It won't happen again. But it was I got bullied more because I've opened my mouth and I spoke up about it, and really people don't do that out there. They'll just take it. But I wasn't used to it, so I spoke out. And so it was like I got bullied for my color, then I got bullied for speaking out about it. And then it's like, so it was like at that point I was like, well, I see they're bullying me because of my color. So is it being bullied or bully? So I got more aggressive and anger issues, and I took charge of, I'm not letting them do that to me no more. And it was like the wrong decision. So it was like times where I was getting pulled aside and it was like, well, you're really aggressive with the students and we're in fear of them. There's parents complaining. They're in fear. They want to take their kids out of the school. So it was times I was getting kicked out of class because stuff I said, I felt like it wasn't wrong, but they felt like it was wrong. And it was like really hard out there, like walking down the street. Our color, we couldn't really walk down the street because we were getting stuff thrown at us, talking about get a job, you don't belong here and everything. And it was really a tough time growing out there, but I progressed out there, like I don't know, I it's like I adjust to the lifestyle out there. Like I changed and I was like a different person. And then it was just it was kind of hard, but I'm kind of happy it happened because I'm able to see different things, that not just one thing, like just diversity. I've got to see what other people don't get to see most of. So, no problem.
So I wonder if we could pass it down real quick to Samantha. So I wanted her to share a story about how she found a stereotype she was living, recognized it, found the damage that was going, and then made a decision on how to change it.
Okay. So my mom has 5 younger sisters and 1 older brother, but he was never there. And her life when she grew up, she took care of them. And my whole entire life, I always thought, as my mom was like a superwoman, she was invincible. And from 3rd grade to 8th grade, me and my 5 nephews, we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, and their moms were never there. My sisters were never there. They was always at bingo and stuff, and my mom, she wasn't there either. So I raised my nephews. And with that being said, I had to teach my nephews to be like hard. Like I taught them that on purpose because they're boys, even though I'm a girl. And like I always got beat up by boys trying to show them like what, like don't let him, like talk to you like that. And I became a boy dang near doing that. And in order to take care of them, I started selling drugs. And once I was really selling drugs, and my mom and my whole entire family was telling me that I shouldn't do it, and I was trying to be too hard or a boy, and I was just trying to figure out like you're not taking care of your kids, so I'm finna do it. I'm finna show them the way, and I was doing what I need to do, pay for them. I'm finna get that money regardless, and if my mom could do it, then I'm gonna do it. And I realized going through all that, towards the end, my grandpa died, and I was just figuring out, I can't keep tearing down the Black community because it was setting a bad example for my nephews. And once I realized that, I was kind of tired of bringing everybody down with me. And with that being said, I'll leave that, it's in the past, and now I just build from it, and I try to bring up my community, make sure that my nephews are still okay. Like their moms, they have progressed to be the women they're supposed to be, and they're taking care of their kids. And now I'm finally doing what I need to do, taking care of me, and that's pretty much it.
So, Darian, I'm giving you a time machine. You get to go back and talk to little Darian. With all your knowledge and your experience and what advice would you give
Well, what I give my younger self when I was younger is to not give up no matter how many obstacles is put in front of you. No matter how many times you have to spin around like a dog, don't give up. You'll find a way. I wish I didn't stress as much. And I wish I had stayed in the sports I stayed in. I used to play basketball, but I kind of gave up. I kind of blamed it on depression and everything. So it's like, I wish I didn't use that as an excuse because it was really, honestly, I was depressed a lot, but I was really lazy too. But then my mom was telling me it's okay because you're depressed. And we're all, like, mostly in my house, we're like, from the littlest kid, we're like, depression, like, runs really hard in my family. So everybody's depressed. So it was like, now I would tell myself that I thought I have it hard now. And if there's things I could change, I would change a lot. But I'm kind of happy I didn't because where I am today. But now it's kind of getting hard for me because I have a lot of things that's happened in my life that I feel like if I changed my way back then, it would be way better for right now. Like if I helped my mom more because I know my dad wasn't present, that my mom wouldn't be struggling right now. Like she's struggling where she's taking care of us and she's not worried about her health, where like her kidneys are failing. And it's like now that we're worried about my little sister because it's like there's stuff that's been going on with her, and then we found out that it could be cancer. So it's like I'm fighting on, I don't want to lose my mom and I don't want to lose my little sister. So it was like I felt like back then if I would have changed like how I was, and like I feel like I was ungrateful a lot. Like if I would have appreciated my mom more, then now I feel like I won't be going through this. I feel like I would begin. I don't know. Like it's just kind of hard because I feel like the way I act back then and the things I've did back then is the reason I'm getting out like karma. Like I feel like if I didn't do certain things back when I was younger, it wouldn't happen to me now. So it's like I feel like everything is getting taken away from me. Like in the past 4 years, I've lost like every year, like since 2014, I've been losing somebody each year since 2017 now. So it's like I feel like my life is falling apart, and at the same time, it's doing good at the same time. But it's like I'm doing good, but I'm losing people that are close to me. So it's like I would tell my younger self that there's going to be times it's going to get worse, but never turn your light off. Keep it shining. Never close your eyes and think that nothing will ever get better, because at some point you'll be able to do what you want to and take care of your family like you want to. So I appreciate you guys listening. I really do.
Thank you for sharing that. Clap it up for Darren for sharing that really personal truth. So, it's two things I want to do on that. One, I mean, I hear that guilt and I hear that stuff that's on your shoulders, and just to remind you, like, you're a kid and that's not your fault. And there are just some things that you don't have control over. But I like the way that you're trying to stay positive in it. It makes me wonder if there's somebody at your school that you encounter every single day that knows what you're dealing with. And it makes me think about the folks that's in this room. Just like you just heard, how old are you?
I'm 18 now.
You just heard an 18-year-old like talk about, he said, I wish I could have took care of my mom. I could have took care of my sister. I feel guilty about that. And now all that stuff is coming into your classroom, into your school, right? And did any of your teachers know any of that stuff? Okay. Do you think that they know how you feel and that guilt that you're carrying? Okay. I would venture to say that, one, I'm glad that they know, but I would assume that there are a lot of folks, young people that are dealing with that type of stuff, and you just don't have any type of clue, right? And so, somebody mentioned the iceberg earlier of a young person, of like, it looks like this up here, and then it's a whole level of stuff down there. So, but I just thought it was important for me to say, like, none of that stuff is your fault. And I don't know why things happen the way they happen, but you stay positive and continue to talk to somebody. Because I think we heard multiple students talk about depression too, and I think that that's something we've had. When I was at OUSD, we had people invest in talking about depression with educators, just because it was just starting to run rampant in a different way. And so I don't know what the district here is doing, but we just heard like 3 young people on a panel out of 5 mention depression, right? And so anyway, I don't want to drone on, but I thought that was important to actually highlight.
Anybody else want to add it?
You got to restate the question for him, though, brother.
I got caught up in the moment too.
Yes,
I had to reread it. I don't even know what I asked. What advice would you tell the younger you? I got caught up too. Can I add something to that? Your comment. Having dealt a lot with trauma and kids in trauma, I think a lot of times half of our struggles we try to understand it rather than accepting it. But also, the teachable moment out of this is that what we're doing is so precious. To just take every second is special and just build upon it and don't waste it. I appreciated what you did.
Some advice I'd give myself is to build better relationships with my teachers. That's what I would say. Like, build better relationships with you guys, because I didn't really start doing that till probably, I don't know, the beginning of this year, definitely, and last year, the end of last year. I started talking to my teachers more about, like, my teachers, not just school. Like, earlier, like, throughout my whole life, I've always been pushed to get good grades. That's why I have the habits that I have now of getting good grades and where I am now. And I always looked at my teachers as just somebody that I need to listen to so I can get a good grade. Like, it was just a robot. Like, there was no anything. They're just there. But this year, what made me realize it was my advocacy teacher. Last year, she was always like, she always had a bad attitude sometimes. She would answer like questions really like, I don't know, not like in a mean way, but it would just be very like blunt, more than like she normally was. But the whole time it's because she was going through, one of her parents, I think it was her dad. He passed away, and she never told us. But I just wish I could know that about my teachers more, so I could not think like, I was always like, so I even said bad things about her, and the whole time she was going through something. So I just wish I build better relationships with my teachers so that they could tell me what they're going through, also me telling them what I'm going through. That's what I'd say.
Like I said in the first session, them girls. It's them girls. I'm trying to tell you. Mr. Amy, he knows. He's always, when I was in Monterey Trails, he's always had a problem with me and girls because it was just crazy. But after all that, I mean.
Brother, keep that teacher's number for when you go to college.
I mean, nah. he can't save me from college then. But after after all that, I mean, after all the girls and stuff, it's just, I just wish, I was harder. I wish I would have been harder on myself into doing better, because I've always like I'm not no street dude. I ain't come from the streets, but I put myself in that street life, and I felt the streets like for young African Americans like us, the streets is the easiest place to go to turn your head to, like, because everybody like us want to get fast money, they like being flashy and all that. So when things get hard in school, everybody's fallback is the streets, and that's the route I took, and it's not a good route, because you don't gain nothing from the streets but pain. And I've used my pain to help me push within the streets. And if I would have just kept my knowledge, like, I've always wanted to play football and basketball and stuff like that, because I'm a real athletic person. Like, I'll play any sport that you want me to play and dominate at it at that. But it's like, when I seen I wasn't getting the proper help from people I wanted to help me, like teachers and my parents and everybody, it was just like, okay, don't nobody want to help me, then I'm just gonna live for myself. And that's when I had to turn to the streets. And I wish like to this day I could just tell myself, like, because when everybody was telling me that high school gonna go like this, I like blinked, it was just over. I'm like, oh my God, like, why? Like, I wasn't even prepared. And it's crazy because I I took the easy way out. Well, at least I tried to. I want to be able to get my diploma and stuff, because I want to do real estate after I get out of high school and do welding and own businesses and stuff. But after all that, it's like I felt like me going into the streets was just, my easy way out, and me being 18 and having to really live for myself and really having to find somewhere to lay my head at if my mom don't want me out of her house. It's like, well, you gotta really get on your stuff. You can't just be thinking that the streets gonna save you if everything goes bad, because they not. That's just gonna put you in a bad place. So it's like I would tell myself, finish school, be do put 100% in school, keep your head pushing, because everything gonna get better sooner or later, and live your life how you would really want to. Because really, I wanted to be done with high school at 18, and travel and go be with my brother somewhere. Go look for my brother that I ain't never met. And I found out he plays for the Eagles. So I ain't never met him, and I was like, I would have rather done that than be stuck where I'm at and be talked about how I'm talked about. Because at my house, I'm just looked at the bad child. Because I've been to jail and stuff like that. I've been to juvenile hall and stuff like that. So that's all I'm looked at in my family. Everybody think of me like you just a mess up. And if I could tell myself, like, you not, like, don't let what everybody else tell you get to you. No matter what, you gonna be that one. You gonna make it to the top, and you gonna be successful. And I wish I would have told myself that a long time ago.
So this is our last question here, but this is everybody gonna get an opportunity to this, and this is what I shared the last time. What the true blessing for me is, I know my experience in school is different than yours, because I'm white and I'm a male, and now I'm gonna steal that iceberg analogy sometime. And it doesn't matter how many books I read or research I do, I'm still not going to be able to speak to your experience. So I love this question. So tell the class, what we can do as educators to help, what supports, what curriculum, what conversations, how should we be that will help support your process as an African American through school.
Well, I'm gonna say this again because I really strongly believe that like teachers should, because I'm in a debate class, public speaking, and then we're learning how to listen. And with that being said, in order to listen, you have to have good eye contact and great posture, and ask clarifying questions so you can understand the whole situation and don't judge. And I feel like when we talk to teachers, they always want to bring up how they used to be, like, oh, back in my day, and you kids are just like things like that. It doesn't help, like, because you'll never understand if you're always trying to talk about yourself. And like, if not, like, you gotta I just would really hope for like you teachers to really like ask all the questions you can, and then in the end give advice. Like advice where you don't judge and we don't bring up nothing in your past. Not necessarily try to be in their shoes, but like, just try to understand, and don't tell them like, well, I used to, and you just, and that's just irritating.
What I would tell the teachers is be more for your students. Like try your best to get to know your students as much as you can, even if they're like me, because I used to give teachers a hard time. Like I really didn't like talking to none of my teachers, because I always felt like it was a little racial thing going on with all my teachers, even though it probably wasn't. They was always there to really help me. But like when I was in elementary school, my teachers was racist to me and my little brother. My third third grade teacher used to call me the little black boy in class, you know. So I've had all that. So it's like I've came across to really not care for a teacher, but I see that a teacher is like, you know, really the ones that's really want to be there for you, really want to see you be successful more than your family would be. But it just have to be, you guys would have to engage with them more, you know, talk to them more, get to know them more, even if it's not with the whole class and you're not talking with the whole class, ask them a random question or something, you know, because then they'll learn to like you more and you'll appeal to their eyes more and they'll be more wanting to talk to you more about class and what's going on. So if you really would get to know your students will follow through and really want to talk to you and really want to do better for you guys because you guys are taking the initiative to talk to them, you know.
The thing I'd say you guys could that would help a lot that you guys could do is pay attention to where you seat everybody in the class. because like obviously if people are talking, they're not paying attention to you talking, and that's the most important part. That's probably the main reason why I get good grades is that I don't really talk to anybody during class. Maybe not in math class in 8th grade, but just like twice. But especially now in high school, I pay really good attention to my teachers when they're talking, and that helps me remember more even than studying is listening to them saying it to me. So if you have kids that are talking to each other a lot, move them away, but try not to like make it, I don't know, such a negative thing. I don't know how to explain it. Like, because kids take it like really offensive sometimes when you move them. They're like, wow, you're just like, I don't know. They just think you're a mean person, but that's not it though. And another thing is, if there's a kid that's struggling and you're trying to explain to them, but they're not getting it, sit them next to kids that know or aren't struggling at all, because the first thing a kid does when they're like struggling in a class is turn next to them and be like, how you do this again? Yeah, every single time. Or like, instead of just leaving them out to dry, like they're just there by themselves, and then they just give up or something. You put them next, yeah, or making them wait too long, and then they just stop caring. So I would say sit them next to somebody, like students that know what, like, are having a good time in the class and understand what's going on.
I think that teachers, they should build relationships with students, but I think they should also focus on making the students feel comfortable with each other, because a lot of time in schools, the kids who feel left out are because they feel like they are the outlier in the school, like they aren't included. Like my school is really big on school spirit, and we have like all these rallies and all these activities that make you feel like a family. Like everyone is your brother or your sister or your cousin. Like you feel so connected to everyone. And my agricultural economics teacher, she has this thing called Cake Day. And one or two people bring like cupcakes or something. And at first you think it's just because she wants us to eat food and like leave her alone. But it's, she based it off of Queen Elizabeth, and she was a spoiled brat. She didn't care about anybody but herself and her friends and her lavish lifestyle. And she would take money from the commoners in order to pay for her clothes and her parties and stuff. And the commoners, they rebelled, and they came to her and they were begging for the leftovers from her party. And her servants came to her and asked if they could give them like leftover bread. And she said, why would you let them eat leftovers when they could just eat cake at home? Like she had no idea what was going on. She just cared about herself. So that day she has us sit and we write on a piece of paper about, she'll give us a theme. Our last theme was what we don't know how to do. And everyone just listens. You sit and listen to what everyone else has to say. And it teaches us empathy for one another. You learn what other people don't know how to do, and then it helps you connect, because maybe you don't know how to do the same thing, or you can help that person learn how to do it. And I think that more schools need that. So.
Well, I think that it help. What teachers can do that it help us more. For us to be like, I don't know, it's like an image. Like for males, Black African males, I think mostly it's like an image. like I've learned by my mom mostly. She's like really big on that, like how I dress, like pull my pants up, don't sag at all, like because we have for us like mostly Black African American males too, like I think like we see on TV about all the shootings with the black teens and everything and the white cops, and we feel like, well, my teacher's white, or well, all the white people are against us. Like there's a lot of white people that I'll say Caucasian. I won't. Caucasian people that they're with us. Like it don't matter because of the color of our skin. They still see us the same. They still see us as equal. Just because one person don't see us equal, don't mean everybody sees us like that. So I feel like if the teachers like didn't look like our image, the way we dress or the way we act, the way we talk, some of us talk like that or act like that because we're scared. We just want somebody to care. We want the attention to show that somebody cares and cares about our education and what we do with our life. So I feel like if teachers realize, like, some people, they're just like, I don't know, that's just how they are. But I feel like if the teachers took most of the time to be like, okay, the image they're giving me, the way they're talking doesn't state their character. Let me get to know them. Let me get to talk to them. And I feel like kids will mostly, all colors will open up. And Black African Americans will open up too. Like we'll feel more calm, because it's like the intimidation. Like if I feel like somebody's intimidated by me, I'll be scared. I'll be like nervous to talk to them because I don't want to move a certain way or talk a certain way and they feel like I'm threatening them or something. So I feel like when we feel like we're intimidating somebody, it makes us like nervous and just don't want to talk to somebody. So I feel like if there wasn't a lot of, and if we didn't feel like there was a lot of intimidation, we would be more calm. We would be more like open.
You got it. You did it.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So I'm going to follow up with you again with the same questions I asked before. So you've done hundreds of panels and probably asked questions similar to this. What are some patterns of needs and supports that you've just kind of heard over the time doing this?
Yeah, and I'll just quickly give the reflections. I heard, just from listening to these young folks in both panels, I think it's pretty consistent. I think one positive adult can outweigh a ton of negative ones. We've heard situations where they've run into negative adult, and they remember not just who that person was, but the time, the moment, and the place when that person encouraged them. I think that as somebody who supports teachers in schools and organizations and all that good stuff, I would randomly ask my teachers about random students, and I would have 4 questions for them because relationships are important. And those 4 questions was, tell me what that person likes, what do they fear, what pressure do they feel, and who do they trust in their lives. And they, the understanding was, you are in control of this classroom. I should be able to point at any random student and you should be able to communicate that to me. And then I think the other piece that we talked about was our students are resilient. We see that. We've heard these stories, and you actually didn't even get all the stories from the first session. It was Kleenex in here in the first session. And I think that our kids are resilient. Students don't need your sympathy, they need your excellence. They don't need you to feel bad for them. They need you to be really, really good at your job and be dynamic. And then the other piece that we talked about, I think, emotional development and learning how to have, helping young people learn how to have a conversation, and in happenstance, you learn how to have a conversation with your student. And so we talked about, like, there were so many emotional issues here, and like people just did not know how to deal with that, didn't have people they could talk to at home or in the streets or wherever. Like, we have to, how are we being vessels in that way that help young people be healthy, that help people deal with things in a healthy way? And I think the last thing which we said, but it should always be reiterated, is just building relationships and being consistent. I think that that's something that everybody up here really respected and has kind of said in their own way. And just something to chew on. You heard 5 kids basically taking on adult issues, like really taking on adult issues. And like, as an educator, like, what's our role in that? Like, what do we have a role in that? How do we deal with that, right? Like, how do we facilitate conversations around, damn, like, yo, I got 3 kids in my class that's like talking about how they gonna get PG&E paid for, right? Like, I'm trying to teach history. I don't know what to do with that. And I think that just leads with, it's okay for you to say, I don't know. It's okay for you, it's interesting that the issues that they bring up tend to be microcosms that we deal with as adults. You know what I mean? And like watching young people really try to like juggle stuff that you ain't even figured out in your life, like it's just a reflection point.
These students, give us a